Ahoy hoy, I'm Planarwalk, and one of the things that Flat Earth really lacks is preciseness. Now what I mean by that exactly is Flat Earthers will often present an idea and say, this is how things are working. And then when you go and ask them the details, they won't give you any precise details. An example of this would be an individual claiming that density is a force, and then trying to show that density is a force by taking an egg and placing that egg in a glass of water. And when the water of the glass is less dense than the egg sinks, but when they increase the density of the water, the egg rises. Now it's okay to go, hey, dense objects will sink and lighter objects will rise. Everybody knows this already. The problem is when you try and take something like that and say, we can use this as a replacement for gravity. Because when it comes to gravity, the first thing that you'll note is that there's a 9.81 meters per second acceleration of objects towards the ground. And this can be calculated using force equals the gravitational constant times the mass of the first object times the mass of the second object over the distance between the center of the two objects squared. Now when it comes to something like relative density, what kind of equations do you think it might give to explain this 9.81 meters per second acceleration of objects towards the ground?
This is an egg.
So nothing that's actually useful then. But there are some flat earthers that will say, but yes, not everything falls to the ground at 9.8 meters per second. How do you explain a helium balloon that doesn't even fall at all? It rises. Checkmate, globetards. Or they might say something equally stupid like, I can jump, therefore gravity has been disproven. Boom. But to those I say, you clearly do not know how forces work. For the helium balloon example, the force of gravity is still acting on the helium balloon, it's just being counteracted by a different force. This other force that's acting on the helium balloon is of course buoyancy. So here's a question for flat earthers. What happens when two forces act on an object in opposing directions? So the answer here is of course, if the forces are equal, then the object will not move. However, if one force is greater than the other, the object will move in a direction dictated by the greater force. So in the case of the helium balloon, it has the force of gravity acting downwards on it, and it has the buoyant force acting upwards on it. Because the buoyant force in this case is greater than the force of gravity, the helium balloon moves upwards. Now for the jumping example, you can basically give the same answer, but I want to do a little experiment. So this is an egg. This is a glass full of salt solution, and this is a spoon. It's plastic this time. So if I take this egg and place it in the salt solution, it's very clear that the egg is less dense than salt solution, so therefore it floats. So let's try something different though. What if we drop it in the salt solution? What happens? Well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there? So let's play that again, but I want to pause it at a particular part that I want you to take note of. So using Flerf logic, what's going on here? That egg is supposed to be floating, right? But it's submerged in the water. So therefore, buoyancy has just been debunked. We can also do a bit more like this. I just made it be submerged again. Sure, it came back up again, but I don't see people just levitating in the air after they've jumped. Let's see flat earthers try and wrap their heads around that. So when I dropped the egg, it was accelerated downwards by the gravitational force until it hit the water, at which point buoyancy started decelerating it until it overcame the momentum that it had from falling, at which point it started moving upwards. And all this can be calculated using what we know of physics. The rate at which the egg falls, the acceleration, the deceleration of the egg, all of it. But at the current point in time, we need gravity to work that out. Now, it's okay if you want to propose an alternative to gravity, like relative density. You just have to give details on how it works so that we can actually calculate something from it so that it's actually useful. Because even if gravity is completely made up, it's still more useful than anything flat earthers have come up with. But there are two things which I think are the core of the issue. The first being, flat earthers don't want to take the time to come up with accurate predictions. And this is something that I can actually understand. It takes time to come up with a prediction. And if the prediction fails, then you've got to go back to the drawing board, modify the formulas that you've come up with, and try again. And if you're not good at maths, then obviously this becomes a lot harder by a factor of 3 to the power of 4. Now, if you're not willing to put in the effort to come up with an alternative to the gravity that you so adamantly think is fake, I have one small suggestion for you. It is shut the fuck up. But of course, there is the second core part of the issue, which is if they come up with something that can be falsified, people will test it and show that it is bullshit. And that is why I think they don't provide any calculations for relative density, they don't provide any calculations for the angle of attack, and they won't say what map exactly is the flat Earth map. Because if they were to do that, they'd have someone come along that can open 5 more tabs than they can, going, yeah, nah, that's bullshit, eh? But even when you get someone like AB Science that comes along and says, hey, I want to see if relative density is a thing. Here's a few calculations that I'm going to try. You've got flat earthers saying, no, maths is bad. Don't use maths as pseudoscience, it's witchcraft, it's the devil. And to any flat earthers that think that maths might be a bad thing for some reason, if you were going to live in a house, would you rather it be built by people that know maths, that know how to convert meters to millimeters, that know what the interior angles of a triangle are, or would you rather be built by people that don't know any maths? And if you're going to choose the latter, you might as well build your own house without the use of maths. But anyway, leave a like and subscribe if you like this video. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like me to make a video on next. As always, a big shout out to my $20 or more patrons, Fight the Flat Earth, Stantrucker, What Jesus, Robert Legere III, and Wolfie. If you want to support me, you can do so on Patreon, link will be in the description. And this spoon was used for stirring. Thought I'd just let you know that. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching.
This is an egg.
That's not an egg. That's an egg. It's free range.